The air was thick inside the alien auction hall. The smell of rust, oil, and fear floated between the metal walls. Strange glowing lights hung from the ceiling, flickering like dying stars. Creatures from many worlds filled the dark space. Some were tall with silver skin. Others crawled on 6 legs, clicking their jaws. All of them spoke in sharp and broken voices as they shouted bids. Cages stood in long rows. Behind the bars, living beings waited, silent and afraid. Some were small and thin, some big and strong. They all wore metal collars around their necks. The collars blinked red, a warning, a promise of pain if they tried to escape. At the front, on a high platform, stood the auctioneer. His body was long and twisted, his face hidden under a glass mask that hissed with every breath. His voice was cold and sharp like broken glass. "Lot number 51, he called, slamming his claw on the metal floor. "Strong worker from the mines of Crawl, can lift 6 times its own weight, start at 2,000 credits. The crowd shouted numbers. The creature in the cage cried out once, then went silent. A moment later, the deal was done. The cage door opened. Chains dragged the creature away. The auctioneer smiled without joy. Then he turned and waved his claw again. "Lot number 52, he hissed. "This one is special." 2 guards dragged out a small cage. Inside was a girl. She was thin, almost like bones covered in gray skin. Her big dark eyes looked out from under tangled hair. She had only 1 leg. The other side ended just above the knee, wrapped in old cloth. She sat quietly, hugging herself, shaking. The crowd went quiet for a moment, then they laughed. "She is broken!" one alien shouted. "Throw her in the trash!" another cried. "Half a body, half a price!" a third one yelled. The auctioneer laughed too, a cold, empty sound. He slammed the cage with his claw. "She is useless," he said. "No work, no speed, no fight, a waste of space." He raised his arms wide. "Half price for the 1-legged slave," he shouted. "Come on, who will take this piece of trash?" No one moved. The girl lowered her eyes. She said nothing. She did not cry. She only pulled her arms tighter around herself. The red collar on her neck blinked slowly, like a dying heart. And then, from the shadow at the edge of the hall, someone moved. It was a human. He stood tall among the strange creatures, wearing a dark jacket with silver lines on the sleeves. A small scar ran across his jaw. His eyes were calm and sharp like cold water. He had said nothing the whole night. He only watched. Now he stepped forward. The crowd turned to look at him. Some laughed. Some whispered. "Humans," someone muttered, "always collecting broken things." The human did not answer. He only stood in front of the cage and looked at the girl. For a moment, the noise of the hall faded. The girl slowly lifted her head. Their eyes met. Her eyes were full of fear, but also something else. Something hidden. Something bright. Fire. The human saw it. The auctioneer tilted his mask. "Well, human, are you here to laugh too?" "No," the human said softly. His voice was calm, but it carried through the hall like a blade of glass. "I will take her." The room fell silent. The auctioneer blinked behind his glass mask. "You want this? This broken thing?" "Yes," the human said. "Why?" The auctioneer almost laughed. The human's eyes stayed on the girl. She did not look away. She did not move. "She is not broken," the human said. "She is just not finished." A low whisper ran through the crowd. Some aliens hissed. Others shook their heads. No one understood. The auctioneer clicked his claws, confused. But credits were credits. He typed the number into his pad and snapped his fingers. The collar on the girl's neck blinked green. The cage door opened with a hiss. "Fine," the auctioneer said. "Take your trash." The human stepped forward. The girl tried to stand, but her 1 leg slipped. She fell hard on the metal floor. The human caught her before she hit again. She froze in his arms, staring at him with wide, dark eyes. No one had ever caught her before. No one had ever cared if she fell. The human looked at her and smiled just a little. "Let's go," he said. The girl said nothing. She only held on to his jacket as he walked away through the crowd. The aliens watched them, whispering, laughing quietly. They thought the human was foolish. They thought he had wasted his credits. But the human did not hear them, because he had seen something they could not. Something in her eyes. Something burning. The hall behind them faded into silence as the human walked away, carrying the small, 1-legged girl in his arms. The metal doors hissed closed, shutting out the noise of laughter and cold voices. Only the echo of their footsteps remained in the long, empty corridor of the station. She was light, too light, like a shadow pretending to be alive. Her gray skin was cold under his jacket. She did not speak. She only kept her eyes open, watching every corner as if danger waited behind every wall. The human said nothing either. He moved with steady steps, calm as stone, but inside questions circled in his mind. Why was she still alive? Why had they not thrown her away? And why? Why had her eyes burned like that? They reached the outer docks. A huge glass wall showed the endless black of space dotted with stars. Ships floated like silent birds in the distance. The human's small ship waited at the end of the pier, old, dark, and patched from old battles. He opened the ramp and stepped inside. Warm yellow lights lit up the narrow halls. The air smelled of engine oil and dust. He placed the girl gently on a soft chair near the wall. She sat stiff, her arms wrapped around herself. The red collar around her neck blinked slowly. The human knelt down. He took out a small silver tool and pressed it to the collar. There was a soft click. The light on the collar died. Her eyes widened. She touched her neck slowly, as if she did not believe it. "You are free now," he said. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. No one had ever said that to her before. No one had ever called her free. The human stood and walked to the small kitchen space. He opened a container and pulled out a pack of food. The smell of warm bread filled the air. He placed it in front of her. "Eat." She stared at the food. Her fingers shook. Slowly she picked up a piece and bit it. Her eyes closed. For the first time her body relaxed. She ate quickly, like she thought someone might take it away. Crumbs fell down her chin. When she finished, she sat still again, unsure what to do next. The human sat on the floor across from her. He watched her quietly. "What is your name?" he asked. She looked at him. Her voice was dry and weak, like wind in a broken pipe. "They never gave me one." He nodded slowly. Then he smiled, not the kind of smile that laughs, but the kind that understands. "Then I will." She blinked. "Why?" "Because you are not nothing," he said. "And everything has a name." He looked around the ship as if searching for something, then his eyes returned to her. "I will call you Nova." "Nova," she whispered. The word felt strange and soft on her tongue. She repeated it again, quieter. "Nova." "Yes," the human said. "It means new star." Her eyes lowered. A small warmth bloomed in her chest. No one had ever given her anything before. Now she had a name. Nova. The human stood and walked to a workshop space at the side of the ship. Tools hung from the wall. Metal scraps lay on the table. He pulled out a small glowing device and began to shape something with slow, careful hands. Nova W. Atched from her chair, her big eyes following every movement, sparks danced around his fingers as he worked. He said nothing. He only hummed softly, a quiet tune from far away. She wanted to ask what he was building, but her voice stayed locked inside her. Hours passed. Outside, the stars turned. Inside, only the sound of tools filled the air. At last, he stopped. He wiped sweat from his brow and turned. In his hands was a thin silver frame shaped like a leg. Smooth joints, small pistons, soft black padding. It was not big. It was small, like her. Nova stared at it. "Is that for me?" she asked, her voice barely a breath. "Yes," he said simply. Her eyes widened. "Why?" He placed the metal leg gently on the table. "Because you need to stand." She looked down at her empty side. She touched the old cloth tied around it. Her fingers trembled. "No one wants me to stand," she whispered. "I do," he said. Their eyes met. His were calm, steady, like stone. Hers were wide, shaking like a candle. "Why?" she asked again, almost angry this time. "Why do you care?" He was silent for a moment, then he said, "Because once, someone helped me stand when I could not." He turned back to his tools. She stared at his back. She did not understand. No one had ever cared. Not for her, not for what she could be. For the first time, something strange stirred inside her. Something warm and sharp and new. Hope. She touched her new name in her mind. Nova. Outside, the stars waited. Inside, the human worked on her future. The ship floated through endless space, silent like a lonely bird. Inside, the air was warm and filled with the soft hum of the engines. The human worked carefully in the workshop, and Nova watched from the chair, her dark eyes shining with quiet wonder. The silver frame of the new leg stood on the table like a promise. For 2 days, the human shaped it, piece by piece. He tested every joint, every wire. Sometimes he spoke quietly to himself, saying numbers she did not understand. Sometimes he just worked in silence, his face calm, but focused, like a sculptor cutting stone. Nova stayed near him the whole time. She said little, but she watched everything. How he used his hands, how he moved slowly, how he never rushed. No one had ever taken so much time for her before. On the third day, he placed the metal leg gently on the floor. "Nova," he said, "it is ready." Her heart jumped. She looked at the leg. It was smooth and silver, with black padding around the knee. A small blue light blinked near the heel. It looked alive. She swallowed hard. It is mine?" "Yes," he said. He knelt beside her and carefully removed the old cloth from her side. The skin was thin and pale where her leg had once been. He was gentle, like he was touching something sacred. Then he lifted the new leg and attached it with a soft click. The blue light grew brighter. Nova stared at it. It felt strange, heavy and light at the same time, like part of her, but not. "Try to stand," he said quietly. She placed her hands on the chair. She pushed. The metal foot touched the ground. Her body trembled. Her heart beat fast. She rose slowly. For the first time in her life, she stood on two legs. Her breath came fast. She looked at him, eyes wide. He smiled a little. "Good," he said. "Now walk." She took one step. The metal leg moved, but her body swayed. She fell. The sound echoed through the small ship. She lay on the floor, her face hot, her heart broken. The old voice from the auction hall whispered in her mind, "Broken, useless, trash." She wanted to cry. She wanted to crawl back to the chair and hide. But the human was already kneeling beside her. He held out his hand. "Again," he said. She blinked. I can't." "Yes," he said simply. "You can." His voice was calm like the deep ocean. She stared at his hand. Slowly, she took it. He lifted her back to her feet. She stood again, shaking. The metal foot touched. To the ground. "Step," he said. She stepped. Again. She stepped again. This time she almost fell, but he caught her arm. She laughed. Just a small sound, strange in her mouth. It felt warm. They tried again, and again, and again. Hours passed. She fell many times. He helped her up every time. His patience never cracked. He never called her weak. He never called her broken. He only said one word again and again. Again. By the end of the day, she was walking across the small room, slow, clumsy, but walking. Sweat ran down her gray skin. Her chest rose and fell fast. Her eyes were bright. The human watched from the wall, arms crossed. A small smile touched his lips. "You are learning fast," he said. Nova stood tall. Her heart raced with pride. I am walking." "Yes," he said softly. "You are." That night, they sat in the quiet kitchen. Stars drifted past the window. Nova chewed on warm bread. The human fixed a broken wire in a small drone. Silence was easy between them now. After a while, she spoke. "Why did you help me?" He stopped. His hands froze over the drone. He looked at her. His eyes were distant, as if looking at something far away. "I had a crew once," he said. "We fought in the border wars. We were like family." "What happened?" she asked. "They are gone," he said simply. His voice was flat, but his eyes were heavy. "All of them. Gone." Nova stayed silent. The hum of the ship filled the space. He looked at her again. "When I saw you, I saw the same fire in your eyes that they had, the same will to live." Nova's throat felt tight. No one had ever seen fire in her eyes before. Only weakness. Only failure. "I want to be more," she said softly. "More than what they said I am." "You will be," he said. "I know it." She nodded slowly. She did not fully believe it yet, but maybe she could. Later, when he slept in the pilot's chair, she stood quietly in the hallway. The metal leg hummed softly with every step. She took 3 steps, then 5, then 10. She stood before the window, stars shining outside. Her reflection stared back from the glass. A small, thin girl with one metal leg and fire in her eyes. Nova. She whispered the name. It no longer felt strange. It felt true. She smiled, just a little. The spark inside her was growing. The ship drifted through deep, black space, far from any stars. Inside, the air was calm. The soft hum of the engines filled the quiet halls like a heartbeat. Nova walked slowly along the narrow hallway. Her steps were smooth now, the metal leg whispered against the floor with a gentle hiss. Every day she grew faster, stronger. She could feel her body changing, waking up. She liked to walk when the human was sleeping. It made her feel free. She stopped by the large glass window and stared at the stars. They glimmered like cold fires in the distance. She touched the glass, and for a moment, something strange happened. A soft glow ran along her skin, just for a second, like silver light hiding under her flesh. She gasped and pulled her hand back. The light vanished. Her heart beat hard. She stared at her hands. They looked normal again, thin gray fingers, nothing more. "What was that?" she whispered. No one answered. The ship hummed gently, calm and silent as always. The next day, the human tested her speed. They set up a small course inside the cargo bay. Crates and wires formed a winding path. "Ready?" he asked. Nova nodded. "Go." She ran. The metal leg hissed like wind. She leapt over a crate, spun, slid under a pipe. Her movements were sharp and clean now. When she stopped at the end, her chest rose and fell fast. But she smiled. The human smiled too. "Better," he said. "Much better." Nova felt proud. She wanted to tell him about the strange glow, but the words stuck in her throat. She was afraid. What if he thought she was dangerous? What if he sent her away? So she stayed silent. That night, alarms screamed. Red light. Ties flashed across the walls. The ship shook violently. The human ran from the cockpit, a blaster in his hand. "Raiders!" he shouted. Nova's heart jumped. The ship jolted again. Sparks burst from the ceiling. She fell to the floor, then pushed herself up quickly. "Stay here," he ordered. But she followed him. They reached the main hatch. The metal doors trembled under heavy blows. The alarm lights painted the walls blood red. "Listen to me," the human said quickly. His voice was sharp but calm. "If they get inside, run. Hide. Understand?" Nova nodded, but her eyes stayed locked on the door. The hatch exploded inward. Smoke filled the bay. Dark shapes rushed through it. Tall, armored raiders with glowing red eyes. The human fired. The blasts flashed bright blue in the smoke. One raider fell. Another dodged and shot back. Nova ducked behind a crate. Her heart hammered like thunder. The human fought hard, but there were too many. One blast hit his shoulder. He dropped to one knee. Blood ran down his arm. "No!" Nova screamed. Something broke inside her. The world slowed. She ran out from behind the crate without thinking. Time felt strange. The smoke curled like slow water. The raiders turned toward her, but too late. Light exploded from her skin. Silver-white energy burst from her body, bright as a newborn star. It wrapped around her like burning wings. The air cracked. The floor shook. The raiders flew backwards, slammed into the walls like rag dolls. Their weapons clattered to the floor, dead and silent. The light around Nova roared brighter, spinning like fire, like wind, like something alive. Her feet hovered above the floor. The metal leg glowed white-hot. Then, silence. The light vanished. Nova collapsed to her knees. Smoke curled from the floor around her. Her whole body shook. The raiders lay still, unconscious. The human stared at her, wide-eyed, frozen. Nova looked at her own hands. They glimmered faintly, then faded back to gray. I don't know what that was," she whispered. The human dropped his blaster and stepped slowly toward her. His voice was quiet, almost afraid. "Nova, what are you?" She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "I don't know." He knelt beside her. Blood dripped from his arm, but he didn't care. He touched her shoulder gently. "You saved me," he said softly. She looked at him. "I didn't mean to." "I know." They sat in silence. The ship hummed quietly again. Nova's hands still trembled. She could feel something deep inside her, something wild, something old, like a sleeping storm that had just opened one eye. It scared her, but part of her also liked it. Later, after the raiders were gone and the alarms were quiet, the human stood alone in the cockpit. He stared at the stars. "She is not just a slave," he whispered, "not even close." Behind him, Nova stood quietly. She heard his words. She didn't know what she was, but she knew this. She was not broken. She was not trash. Something inside her had awakened, and it was only the beginning. The stars drifted silently around the small ship, like cold eyes watching from far away. Inside, everything was quiet. The cargo bay was clean again. The broken pieces from the raid were gone. The air smelled of metal and healing gel. Nova stood near the window, staring at her reflection. She touched the glass with her thin gray fingers. They looked normal again, but she knew they were not. She had seen the light inside them. She could still feel it. It was like a small sun hidden under her skin, quiet now, but waiting. Behind her, the human walked into the room. His arm was wrapped in bandages. He moved slowly, but his eyes were sharp as always. "You should rest," Nova said. He smiled a little. "You sound like a captain." Nova's lips twitched. "Maybe I will be one." He came closer and stood beside her. The stars painted their faces in silver light. "You saved my life," he said quietly. "You saved." "Mine first," she answered. They stood in silence for a while, listening to the ship's soft hum. Then he spoke again. "I think I know what you are." Nova turned to him. "What am I?" "I checked the station archives," he said. "Old records. Very old. There was a race called the Solari." "Solari," she repeated softly. "They were protectors," he said. "Made for war, but born for hope. They had fire in their blood, light in their bones. They could destroy or heal. But they vanished long ago. No one has seen them for centuries." Nova's eyes widened. "And you think I am one of them?" "I don't think," he said. "I know." Nova stepped back. The words echoed in her mind. Protectors, light in their bones. Her chest felt tight. "They called me trash," she whispered. "They laughed at me." "They were blind," the human said. His voice was steady. "They saw what you were missing. I saw what you still had." Nova stared at the stars again. Her reflection looked different now, taller, brighter. "If I am Solari," she said slowly, "then what do I do?" The human's eyes were calm but proud. "Whatever you choose." The next days passed like soft waves. Nova trained harder than ever. She ran across the cargo bay until her legs burned. She lifted heavy crates. She practiced fighting with old drones. Her metal leg hissed like wind. Her eyes burned like fire. The human watched her with quiet pride. Sometimes he gave advice. Sometimes he said nothing and just let her learn. She grew stronger, faster, braver. Sometimes, late at night, she sat alone in the dark and stared at her hands. She remembered the light. She wondered if it would come again, and if she could control it. One day they reached a silent space station drifting in the dark. It was old and broken. Its walls cracked like old bones. The humans said there were ancient records inside, maybe more about the Solari. They walked through dark halls filled with dust. Their footsteps echoed like ghosts. In the deepest room they found it, a round chamber with walls covered in glowing writing, symbols danced softly like tiny flames. Nova touched one. It lit brighter. A voice filled the air, not sound but something inside her mind. "Child of the Solari," it whispered, "your fire sleeps no more." Nova's heart raced. The human stepped closer, eyes wide. The voice grew warmer. "You were born to protect, not to serve. Born to stand, not to kneel. Rise." Light flared around Nova's body, soft but bright. It wrapped around her like wings made of stars. Her feet lifted from the floor. The metal leg glowed white-hot, humming like thunder. She did not feel fear. She felt whole. The light slowly faded. Nova landed gently on the ground. The glowing symbols dimmed and went silent. The human looked at her like she was something new. "You found it," he said softly. Nova stood tall. Her voice was calm and strong. "No, I remembered it." They left the old station behind. As the ship flew through the black, Nova stood on the bridge, looking out at the endless sky. Once she had been a number, a thing in a cage, something to laugh at. Now she was Nova, the last Solari. She turned to the human. He watched her with quiet pride. "I will protect them," she said. "The ones who are weak, the ones they call broken." He nodded slowly. "That's what makes you strong." She smiled, a real smile this time. Stars filled the glass ahead of them. She took a deep breath. "Let's go," she said. The human grinned. "Captain Nova." The engines roared to life. The ship shot forward, a streak of silver cutting through the black. Nova stood at the front, her new legs shining in the starlight, her eyes burning with fire. She was not a slave. She was not broken. She was free, and she was powerful. Space stretched endless and dark outside the glass window. Stars slid by like cold sparks. Inside the ship, everything hummed softly. It had been 5 days since Nova learned the truth. 5 days since she had become more than just a broken slave. But with every day that passed, the fire inside her grew heavier. She sat alone in the cargo bay, cross-legged on the floor. The room was silent except for the gentle thrum of the engines. Her hands rested on her knees, palms open. Small glimmers of silver light danced across her skin, rising and fading like breathing. She was trying to control it. The first time during the raid, the power had exploded from her like a storm. It had saved them, but it had also scared her. It had scared him too. Now she closed her eyes and whispered, "Calm." The glow flickered brighter, then cracked. A flash of light blasted from her palms. Crates shook. A drone on the shelf exploded in a shower of sparks. Nova gasped and fell backward. Smoke curled from the floor. The human rushed in from the hallway, eyes wide. "Nova!" She sat on the ground, shaking, silver energy fading from her skin. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. He looked at the burnt drone, then at her trembling hands. "I know," he said softly, "but this power, it's not just strength. It's a weight. If you lose control, it will hurt you, and everyone near you." "I don't want to hurt anyone," Nova said. "Then you must learn," he said. Training began the next morning. The human cleared the cargo bay, moving all the crates to the edges. The room became a wide-open circle of metal floor. He placed 4 small floating spheres around the space. They glowed pale blue. "These are sensor drones," he said. "They will follow you, they will dodge, and they will fire harmless pulses. Your job is to stay calm." Nova nodded. "Ready?" "Yes." The drones lit bright blue. They shot through the air fast as arrows. Nova moved like wind, her metal leg hissing. She leapt, spun, dodged their shots. Silver light shimmered around her arms, just a little, soft and steady, controlled. For a moment she felt balanced, she felt powerful. Then one shot hit her shoulder, just a small sting, but enough. The fire inside her roared awake, light burst from her body in a violent wave. The drones flew across the bay and slammed into the walls with a loud crash. Nova fell to her knees, gasping. The human walked to her, calm but serious. "You let the power control you." "I tried," she said, her voice cracked. "It's too big." "It is not too big," he said. "You are just not used to carrying it yet." Nova stared at the floor. "Maybe I am not meant to." "Wrong," he said, firm but kind. "You were made to protect. That is what power is for." His words sank into her like slow rain. "Protect, not destroy." She nodded slowly. "Again," she said. The human smiled faintly. "Good." They trained for hours. She fell many times. She failed many times. But each time the light grew calmer, softer, like a wild animal slowly learning her voice. Later that night they sat in the kitchen. Nova drank warm broth from a metal cup. The human wrapped a new bandage around his arm. The silence between them was soft now, almost peaceful. Then the ship's warning lights flashed red. Nova looked up. "What is it?" The human stood quickly and ran to the cockpit. She followed. Outside, in the black sea of stars, 3 ships had appeared. Dark, sharp, and fast. Raider marks glowed on their sides. "They followed us," the human muttered. Nova's chest tightened. "They want me." "They want your power," he said. "To sell, to use." Her hands clenched. The fire inside her flickered awake. "Then I will stop them." "Not like before," he said quickly. "Not with rage. You must choose control." Nova stared out at the raider ships. Her reflection shone faintly in the glass, eyes bright, skin glowing softly. "I will," she whispered. The raiders came fast. They fired first, blazing bolts of red fire. The ship shook hard. Alarms screamed. The human took the controls, dodging sharply between the blasts. "I can't outrun all of them," he said. You'll have to." "I'll go outside." Nova nodded. She walked to the airlock, her heart pounding. She could feel the fire inside her rising like a storm. She closed her eyes and breathed. "Calm," she whispered. The airlock opened. Cold space swallowed her. She stepped out into the dark. The void was silent. Stars burned far away. The raider ships rushed toward her like black knives. Silver light bloomed from her body. It rose slowly this time, not wild, not angry, gentle, steady. Her fear melted away. The fire wrapped around her like quiet wings. The first raider fired. She raised her hand. The blast bent away like water around stone. The second raider fired. She spun through the void, silver trails shining behind her, and slammed her glowing fist into its hull. The ship cracked like glass and drifted dead. The last raider turned to flee. Nova only raised her hand. A wave of light rippled from her body, soft, silent, bright. The raider's systems flickered and went dark. It floated, powerless. Nova hovered in the void, silver flames dancing around her, calm, in control. She whispered, "I am not your weapon, I am their shield." Then she flew back to the ship. The human waited at the airlock. He smiled when she landed. "You did it." Nova smiled back, her eyes glowing softly. "I didn't explode anything." "That's progress," he said. She laughed, just a little. They stood in silence for a moment, the stars bright around them. Nova felt the fire inside her, quiet now, but strong. It no longer felt like a storm, it felt like hers. The stars outside were quiet, but silence did not mean safety. For 3 days, Nova and the human floated through deep space, keeping the ship dark, running silent engines, speaking only in whispers. The battle with the raiders was behind them, but something heavier followed them now. Not ships, not guns, rumors. Whispers across space. On the 3rd day, the human turned on the long-range radio to scan for signals. Faint voices crackled through static, some alien, some human. One voice made him freeze, report of a glowing figure, destroyed 2 ships, possibly a lost Guardian class, reward offered for capture. His hand tightened on the controls. Nova stood behind him, silent. Her silver eyes reflected the dim glow of the screen. "They are talking about me," she said quietly. "Yes," he replied, "and now they know." "Who told them?" "Doesn't matter," he said. "Rumors travel faster than light." Nova looked down at her hands. They were calm now, no glow, only skin and scars. "They will come for me," she whispered. The human looked at her. "Yes, but they will find I am not giving you away." The bounty. The next day they landed on a lonely refuel station orbiting a dead moon. The air inside smelled of metal and rust. Aliens watched them with cold eyes as they walked through the narrow halls. Nova wore a long cloak, hood pulled low, hiding her metal leg. She kept her head down, walking close behind the human. They bought fuel, water, food. The human paid quickly and said nothing. Then, from a wall screen, a voice called out, "Attention, Galactic Council notice. Large bounty posted. Subject, unknown female, silver eyes, energy-based attacks. Dangerous. Reward, 5 million credits." A picture flashed on the screen. It was blurred, but clear enough. Nova. Her heart stopped. Every eye in the room turned toward them. The human grabbed her arm. "Move." They walked fast, quiet but sharp. Behind them, whispers rose like cold wind. 5 million. She's just a girl. She destroyed ships. Nova kept her face down and her breath steady until they reached the ship. When the hatch closed behind them, she finally spoke. "They will chase us everywhere now." "Yes," the human said, starting the engines. "Every hunter in the galaxy just saw your face." A hard question. That night, they drifted between asteroids, engines off, lights off. The ship floated like a shadow among the stones. Nova sat in the dark kitchen, staring at the silver glow in her palms. The human sat across from her, tired eyes watching. "Why do they want me?" she asked. "Because power makes people greedy," he said. "They don't see you, they see what they can use." She was silent for a long time. "Then maybe," she said softly, "I should go away, alone, so they don't hurt you." The human looked at her sharply. "No." "But, no," he said again, louder this time. Then he softened. "I found you when everyone else saw trash. I saw who you are, not what you are. I won't let them take you." Nova's throat tightened. "You can't protect me forever." He nodded. "I know. That's why you must learn to protect yourself." Nova looked at him. Slowly, she nodded. Hunters in the dark. Hours later, the ship's alarm beeped. Soft, short, cold. The human ran to the cockpit. Nova followed. Outside the window, 3 small dots blinked red between the asteroids, moving closer, fast. "Hunters," he said. His voice was like stone. Nova's heart raced. "What do we do?" "Hide first. Fight only if we must." He killed the lights and drifted between the rocks, steering slow and silent. The hunters closed in, scanning with sharp blue beams. One beam passed right over their ship and stopped. The hunters turned sharply toward them. "They found us," Nova whispered. "Then we run," he said. Engines roared to life. The ship shot forward, weaving through the asteroid field. Rocks tumbled around them, huge and black. The hunters followed, firing bright red bolts. Explosions lit the dark. Nova gripped the chair, silver fire itching under her skin. "Not yet," the human said. "Stay calm. They twisted between two massive rocks. A hunter clipped an asteroid and shattered, spinning into dust. Two left, still coming. They won't stop, Nova said. They will never stop. The human said nothing. His jaw was hard. Nova stood, opened the cargo door. He looked at her. Nova, trust me. He hesitated, then nodded. The door opened to the black void. Nova ebbed into the cold again. The stars stared back at her like a billion eyes. The hunters came fast, guns blazing. Nova breathed once, deep, calm. Silver wings burst from her back. She spun into the dark like a comet. Energy flowed smooth, soft, perfect. The hunters fired. She danced between the blasts like flowing water. Then she struck, one glowing punch, clean and silent. A hunter ship broke apart, vanishing in a flash. The last hunter tried to flee. Nova raised her hand and sent out a wave of silver light. Not a blast, just a pulse, soft, gentle. Its engines went dark. It floated, quiet, harmless. Nova hovered in the black, glowing softly like a star. They will keep coming, she whispered. Inside the cockpit, the human watched her through the glass. His voice came through the radio, steady and strong. Then let them come. Ending hook. Nova flew back into the ship, landing light as air. The human closed the hatch. The stars outside were silent again, but not safe. Nova stood in the doorway, silver eyes bright. I am done running, she said. The human smiled faintly. Good, because now the galaxy was hunting her, and she was ready to hunt back.